So after that fun little disappointment that was the S3 Verge, I got myself a Diamond Multimedia Monster 3D card. So I'm going to throw this into my Pentium MMX 200 machine and find out whether the CPU or the Voodoo is the better 3D accelerator. That's just a silly way of saying we're going to see how big the difference is between software rendering and the Voodoo. So this is Battlezone rendering in software mode at 640 by 480 on the Pentium MMX 200. I'm recording this at 60 frames per second again because this time we'll actually be getting into that range. Sadly though, that means that my camera is going to probably be looking at the monitor after it scans an image, and it will look a little bit dark sometimes, but that's just how it's going to be. Otherwise, software rendering mode looks like just about what you would expect it to look like. No texture filtering, everything looks really sharp and everything's a little bit choppy. And just like how software rendering usually is, the explosion effects are rather simplistic, and just a few particle effects and that's it. So now this is with the Voodoo running at 640 by 480. As you can tell right here, there's already a little bit of weird slowdown when that vehicle drove by. That's because the smoke effects in this game like to slow down 3D accelerators, which is rather unfortunate because that means that your game is going to slow to a crawl every time you back up. Also, for whatever reason, explosion effects also bring the game to a crawl, which also makes HUD elements disappear randomly. This game is probably too new for the Voodoo and the S3 Verge, so I'm guessing that later accelerators fix these problems. I probably wouldn't play this game on this computer. Speaking of games that are probably too new for the computers I run them on, here's Hot Wheels Micro Racers. This is running in software rendering at 640 by 480 by the Pentium. It's probably, as you would expect, a bit faster than the Pentium 133, but still rather sluggish. So here's the hardware acceleration by the Voodoo. At first glance it doesn't appear to be that much of a difference, besides a tiny bit on the frame rate, but that's probably because this game's a little bit too new. One thing odd about it is that there appears to be no texture filtering, which is kind of strange considering we're running a 3D accelerator. Everything still looks rather blocky. So this is Moto Racer running at 640 by 480 on software rendering. One of my old favorite games. And of course it's going to run a little bit choppy. And for whatever reason you have a bit of problems controlling this game when you have a low frame rate. The turning does not seem to go as fast as you'd want it to. Because of that I end up hitting a lot of walls and falling off my bike a lot during this race. It's not very fun when you don't have a good frame rate on this game. So now this is the Voodoo rendering this game at 640 by 480. I also had to download the patch to turn this game into a full direct 3D game because for whatever reason they had 2D elements on the screen while racing on the first version of the game, and that caused Voodoo cars to have quite a bit of slowdown. It runs quite a bit smoother, and also just looks smoother in general. So this is Frogger running on software rendering at 640 by 480, or actually just highest settings according to the game's configuration program. This game really struggles to run on software rendering. Yeah, I think you get the point. Probably end up taking like 5 minutes to get to the first frog anyway. As a little bonus, we can also run this game with the MMX software rendering. I guess we'll find out how good that is. Let's put this Pentium MMX to the test. Holy crap, it runs way slower than regular software rendering. I think The Verge found its main competitor for worst way to render a 3D game. I think it took longer to quit this game than it took the regular software rendering to get to the first frog. This is bad. Considering how slow software rendering is in this game, you wouldn't expect the Voodoo to fare much better, would you? Now this is the Voodoo running Frogger and Glide at 640 by 480, and holy crap, it glides, and I died. So yeah, this game runs great and looks great. Another weird thing I've noticed about the Voodoo specifically is that all the games that you run on it tend to be a little bit brighter. One thing I didn't notice in my S3 Verge video is that there were at least like 2 effects that were missing on the Verge. Oh well, that was not very important anyway, but all the effects are here on this version. So the Voodoo definitely beats the crap out of anything else that you can run this game on with this computer. So this is Descent 2 being software rendered at the default settings. Not that you can change any really. As you would expect, it runs pretty smoothly on a Pentium 200 MHz MMX machine, although it makes my camera flicker a little bit. That's because it runs at 70 Hz instead of 60. This game also puts my SC55 to good use, which is pretty nice. So there's nothing really too much to complain about this. It runs really nice and plays really nice, but can we get more out of this game? Oh, I guess we could. Before I do that, let's take a little reminder of how bad the S3 Verge was since it's already in this computer. Oh boy, good stuff. So this is Descent 2 running with the unofficial Voodoo patch. And yeah, it looks great. It runs at 640 by 480. It runs great too. And so this is the last game, Tomb Raider, since the patch for the 3D effects actually works, unlike the S3 Verge. For whatever reason, it's running at 640 by 480 in software rendering. Yeah, ever since I installed the patch, it went to this resolution. It wouldn't go back to whatever its default resolution was. Of course, it was more playable at the lower resolution, but since we're comparing it to a 3D card, I guess this will do anyway. I don't know if it's my sound card or not, but for some reason the sound quality is a little bit low. That's what I get for using an ESS card, I suppose. And so this is the Voodoo running Tomb Raider at 640 by 480. Everything's extremely smooth with this game. So yeah, I guess that's just why the Voodoo was the popular card for the time. Everything you throw at it, it just works. No real rendering errors like on the S3 Verge or the TNT1 or the Riva 128, whatever it's called, where it had problems with rendering certain things. It's a pretty neat little piece of history, although I was a little bit sad that it couldn't run Battlezone as well as I hoped it would. But otherwise, it's a pretty neat little card.